January 2021, the stock market saw something it had never seen before. A failing video game store became the center of a financial war. Hedge funds lost billions, internet traders made fortunes, and for a brief moment, Wall Street's most powerful players were forced to kneel down to a crowd of ordinary people armed with nothing but memes and a trading app. This is the story of how a group of Reddit traders turned GameStop into a symbol of rebellion against the financial elite. If you grew up in the 2000s, you probably remember GameStop. Bright lights, walls packed with games, kids lined up outside for the midnight release of the next big title. It was the hub for gamers. But by the late 2010s, the magic was gone. Digital downloads were taking over. Streaming was growing. Nobody needed to walk into a store for discs anymore. GameStop sales plummeted. Stores closed one after another. Wall Street, this company wasn't just struggling, it was finished. Analysts predicted bankruptcy. The stock price dropped to a few dollars. For big hedge funds, this wasn't the prey. This was easy prey. They bet heavily against it, shorting GameStop stock more than any other company in the market. And that set the stage for what came next. Let's pause for a second, because here is where we need to talk about short selling. Think of it like this: you borrow your neighbor's bike, sell it today for $100, and plan to buy the same bike back later for $50. You return it, keep the difference, and you've made money. That is shorting. But here is the danger. If the price of the bike doesn't fall, if it rises instead, you are stuck. If it costs $200 to buy it back, you are losing $100. That is what hedge funds were doing with GameStop. They weren't just betting against it, they were betting massively. At one point, over 140% of GameStop's shares were shorted, more shares than actually existed. That is like betting against more bikes than there are bikes in the world. And that is where a group of online traders spotted something unusual. On Reddit, there was a forum called Wall Street Bets. It wasn't filled with bankers or analysts. It was filled with everyday people, students, workers, gamers. The culture there was chaotic. People posted wild bets, jokes, and memes about stocks. But buried in the noise was one voice that stood out, a user named Deep Think Value, real name Keith Gill. Back in 2019, Gill started posting about GameStop. He believed the company wasn't dead. He thought new leadership and digital sales could turn things around. But more importantly, he saw something no one else was paying attention to: the insane level of short interest. He invested thousands of dollars in GameStop and shared his progress. At first, people laughed at him. But slowly, more users started paying attention. By 2020, GameStop wasn't just a stock anymore. It became a movement. To the Reddit crowd, this was bigger than money. It was about fighting back. These were the same hedge funds many blamed for wrecking the economy in 2008. This was revenge served through a stock ticker. And then it happened. In January 2021, GameStop's stock exploded. $20 became $50, $50 became $100. Within this, it passed $300. At the peak, it hit $483 a share. Hedge funds that had bet against it were bleeding. To cover their positions, they had to buy back stock at higher and higher prices, which only pushed the stock further up. That cycle, the short squeeze, was now in full motion. Ordinary people who had invested small amounts were suddenly seeing life-changing gains. Screenshot flooded Reddit. I just turned $600 into $60,000. Some were millionaires overnight. On the other side, hedge funds like Melvin Capital lost billions. One of them had to be bailed out with nearly $3 billion just to survive. For a brief moment, it felt like David had beaten Goliath. But victory didn't last long. As the frenzy grew, trading platforms like Robinhood, used by most retail traders, suddenly restricted buying of GameStop. You could sell the stock, but you couldn't buy more. The official reason? Clearinghouses. The middlemen who settled trades demanded huge amounts of collateral because of the wild swings. Robinhood said it had no choice, but to the traders, it looked like something else. They believed the system was rigged, Wall Street was being protected, while ordinary people were locked out. Anger erupted across the internet. Politicians demanded answers. Even Elon Musk jumped in with one tweet. The game stunk. Congress launched hearings. Keith Gill, the man who started it all, sat before lawmakers and calmly said, "I like the stock." That one sentence summed up everything. Simple, defiant, legendary. After the dust settled, GameStop's stock eventually dropped from its crazy highs, but it never went back to being just a forgotten $5 stock. For GameStop itself, the frenzy was a lifeline. It raised money, brought in new leadership, and started shifting toward online sales. Whether it succeeds long-term is another story, but it got a second chance. For hedge funds, it was a warning. Never underestimate the power of retail traders. Never ignore the internet. And for millions of people who watched or joined in, it was history. It proved that for once, the small guys connected through memes and community could shake the most powerful financial system in the world. The GameStop saga wasn't just about money. It was about power. It was about a dying video game store becoming a symbol of rebellion. It showed that in the age of the internet, a single SPAC, a meme, a forum post can set off a chain reaction big enough to shake Wall Street. For a moment, David really did take down Goliath. This was how Reddit traders shook Wall Street. Every story has a lesson. If this one opened your eyes, share it. Someone else might need to learn from it too. Stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, in finance, nothing lasts forever.